Hey everyone, and welcome back to another Movie Mates video. I'm Matthew, of course, joined by my wonderful co-host and best friend.
Callum.
Hey man, lovely to see you. On today's show, we have another WandaVision review, and this time it is episode 5. And we have to confess, a lot has happened in this episode, so it'll probably be obviously, of course, full spoilers, but we're going to be talking about a lot of major talking points because this is where the show really takes off, I suppose, isn't it, mate?
Yeah, I think there'll be a lot of talking points in this episode.
Yeah, for sure. So if you haven't seen WandaVision episode 5, be sure to watch that. It's actually one of the longer episodes as well. I think it's approaching near the 40-minute mark, and it goes to show. I mean, like we said, there's a lot that happens in this episode. A lot of really huge plot points that even impact the MCU as well. Cool. Just before we kick off this WandaVision review, thanks so much to everyone who supported us recently. We really do appreciate that. Every new subscriber in the last week as well, and our time codes on our email as well as always in the description, as well as you can find this video in our WandaVision playlist too. Matt, Callum, if you want to take us away with your opening thoughts in the episode, man, and I'll chip in when I can.
Well, last week's episode ended with Monica announcing that it was all Wanda's responsibility. The entire captivity of the people in Westview was down to Wanda.
Mm-hmm.
And here, we get some further evidence to support this, even though I still strongly disbelieve that she is fully in control. And we see that through the sequence where Agnes asks, should we take the scene from the top? She seems genuinely scared of Wanda.
Yeah, she does.
And I was just gonna ask you, that there have obviously been rumors that she is actually Agatha Harkness, the witch from the comics, and I'm pretty confident that is the case. But if so, do you think that she's a willing participant in this, or that she's just been sucked in through circumstance despite actually being that character, or do you think she's one of the malevolent forces?
That's a really good question. I think I'm not sure if she's a malevolent force in the show. I kind of feel like she's maybe on the similar lines to the character of Dottie, where something is definitely going on behind the scenes, but we just don't know what it is. I mean, I thought that scene was really interesting because, like you said, man, she really does seem like she's afraid of Wanda, so she herself might not be fully sort of, be able to comprehend what's actually going on in Westview. But I'm sort of getting these vibes that like this Agnes character is just an illusion. Like this isn't actually her. She's not one of these missing residents who Wanda has assumed into her reality. I'm trying to think, maybe she's like a sorcerer on in disguise or something like that. Maybe relating to Doctor Strange. I don't know, but I don't know, something about her character doesn't sit right. Same with Dottie, but as well. So I think in the town there will be some people who just are plainly innocent and don't know what's going on, like we've seen with the character of what's his name in the episode? Is it like Noah or something like that? What's his name?
Oh, I don't
forget.
remember. I was hoping you weren't going to throw it to me.
Oh well, there's anyone who's seen the episode will know who we're talking about in that scene with Vision and the scene with Vision in the office. But yeah, I think there's a lot of questions still left unanswered about the Agnes character, but I'm really intrigued to see where they're going to go with it, for sure.
Yeah, and another sort of surprising thing that we see is the twins being aged up significantly within this episode. They go from being babies to 10 years old.
Yeah.
And within one episode, I found that to be quite a shock, seeing as
Yeah.
we hadn't really seen them mature past the baby stage, in any of the promotional material. So
sure.
I was sort of very surprised by that. But something
Yeah.
that was more surprising was that the kids are clearly entirely immune to Wanda's powers. And I was wondering, why do you think that this is?
Yeah, I find it quite interesting, isn't it, man? Because Wanda says to him, like, "Don't age yourselves up." So it's quite clear that it's not Wanda's influence over the children, which kind of makes me think someone is in control of them, and that is making them sort of impervious to Wanda's ability. So I'm maybe leaning towards there some sort of sort of illusion by Mephisto or something like that. If that character's going to appear in here, that's probably where I'd be leaning towards, because, as you said, it seems like Wanda's not in control of them specifically. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I definitely agree that I think there is something sinister there, and the reason I think that is because it's made clear in this episode that Wanda cannot resurrect living things. The only reason she was able to resurrect Vision is because he's made of inorganic matter.
Yeah.
She clearly can't. She couldn't raise the dog from the dead. She can't create new life. So she can't create new life, as in build a new Vision. She had to edit his material that was already there. How did she make the babies out of nothing? So I think the answer
Yes,
is
exactly.
she didn't make them out of nothing. There's something sinister at work.
Yeah, no, for sure, bud, for sure. And I think, on the subject of her recreating Vision, it's revealed in this episode that of course she broke into Sword headquarters and stole Vision's corpse, which is interesting because it doesn't really seem like a Wanda move to me. That it kind of seems like someone is in control of her because she's very aggressive in that sort of security camera tape. Do you know what I mean? So I kind of feel like maybe someone forced her to do that. And obviously, we actually see Wanda appear in the real world here with her accent. Strangely as well, that was a weird thing to get accustomed to. And I think it would have been made so much more sense just to bin off the Sokovian accent. To be honest with
Well,
you.
yeah, because they moved from her having it in Age of Ultron to phasing
Yeah.
it out in Civil War to not having it at all in Avengers Infinity War, and that was like in a private moment with Vision. So clearly she's just binned it off by that point,
Yeah.
and now she doesn't have it, and now she has it back completely, like the
Yeah,
same as
I
she
know.
did,
It's so
you know,
strange, but it is so
7 years in the
strange.
past.
Yeah, I know
Yeah, and
completely.
you sort of mentioned her level of aggression, and in this episode, it's confirmed that when things go through the dome, when they come back out, they are fundamentally changed, but it's just the same matter that's been manipulated.
Yeah.
And there's a moment where they launch a drone strike where they try to shoot a missile at Wanda to kill her.
Classic.
Uh, but she returns the drone to them, throws it at their feet, and she comes out from the dome.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
when she comes through the dome, she leaves wearing her she's in the dome wearing her 80s clothing, and then exits the dome, and she's now in her Scarlet Witch outfit.
Yes, yeah.
So really, what should have happened there was that she stayed in the same clothes. So what I was going to ask you, do you think there are two Wandas? Maybe one that's oblivious to the
Oh,
whole situation, and one that's like this, aggressive enforcer. Because they seem like two polar opposite characters. There's one that's slightly domineering, slightly aggressive, within
that's such a
within the
good
relationship with
smart
Vision,
point. Yeah.
but there's one that's objectively violent.
I feel like they could potentially be going down like a Legion route where there's like multiple personalities that she's created. One who's like oblivious to the TV show perhaps, and then one of them who's like an aggressive Wanda who's been manipulated by some kind of malevolent force that we're talking about. But yeah, I find that was really out of character for her when she comes and storms in the real world. And another character that doesn't really sit right with me is the head of Sword. I really do forget his name. Apologies about that, but he kind of gives me
I know
sort
it's
of
Hayward's the surname.
yeah, we'll go with that. And as I said, people who watch the episode will probably know who I mean. Forgive me, but yeah, it's something about him that seems off with me. I don't know. Maybe that's just his character. He's like a Jeffrey Mace style from Agents of Shield or something. I get those kind of vibes where he is maybe not the most likable guy, but he is a good guy by the end. I don't know. What do you make of the Sword? Do you think there's some sort of corruption going on there?
See, I think that with this only being 9 episodes, and that's not a lot of time, especially when the episodes are 25 minutes.
Exactly.
I think
Exactly.
that
Yeah.
The villains within the dome, within Westview, are enough to sustain this narrative. I really don't think they need an outside force with a villainous head of Sword. They may well go down that route, but I think it's entirely unnecessary. I think
Yeah.
if you just put more time and effort into the development of the central villains, that probably would enrich the narrative, rather than sort of splitting
Oh
the
yeah.
tension by doing that. But yeah, he
Completely.
does seem
Yeah.
a sort of antagonistic figure. But yeah, I hope he's just doing the wrong thing for the right reasons kind of guy.
Fingers crossed, bud. Fingers crossed.
But one thing that we haven't mentioned, which we mention in most episodes, is the opening title sequence. And
My
there was just
favorite.
one moment that I wanted to mention. The photo of Baby Vision may
It's
be
got.
my favorite visual gag I've ever seen in my life.
Have you seen it? It's doing the rounds on social media at the minute. Like, the weekly shout out the Weekly Planet, their Facebook page, great, like the Planet Broadcasting, Great Mates group. It is going mad with those memes of like Baby Vision. Like, it is absolutely
It's so
hilarious.
good.
It's so good, and the 1980s style intro might be my favorite one yet. And in regards to recurring tropes that we talk about in WandaVision, there's of course always the intros, isn't there? But there's always the mid ad breaks, and this one's
Hmm.
just brutal. It is so brutal. Like I cannot believe they made fun of that. Like obviously it's a fictional, uh, you know, sort of horrific incident, but I
Suicide
mean,
bombing. Yeah.
yes, that's yeah. Obviously it's horrific fictional incident, but the fact that like I think they call it like Lagos or something. They're just like, for
Hmm.
cleaning up a mess that you whatever. I don't know. I can't remember how they phrase it, but it's really bad. It's like Oh, it's just so brutal
And they're
on Wanda.
mopping up the blood of the dead people.
And it
Like
kind yeah, I
it is
know.
grim.
And it kind of makes me think who's playing those ads, who's creating those ads, because they're all from things that Wanda remembers. So obviously we've got the Hydra von Strucker watch. Obviously she was manipulated by Baron von Strucker in Age of Ultron. And we can also see like the Hydra soak. Obviously he's a Hydra agent. You know, those kind of things. Tony Stark, or sorry, Howard Stark, the Stark family with their inventions in the first episode. Obviously Lagos she was responsible for partly. I'm sure we talked about that in our Civil War review at some stage. But anyway. Um, it kind of got me
I
thinking
mean,
like
if we talked about it for probably 4 minutes, we
four,
probably didn't hit
yeah,
into
four
it.
seconds, yeah, I know. But it kind of got me thinking, you know, do you think someone is in Wanda's mind potentially who is extracting her memories, and maybe that's where the ads are coming from?
Yeah, I'm still firm on the statement that, you know, if this is all Wanda, I will be so let down. And, you know, based on Evan Peters' appearance at the end of the episode, I think that's pretty much confirmed that, you know, that there is something more complex at play, which I'm happy about.
Completely.
So I think that, you know, Wanda would not consciously, you know, create this dream reality and then broadcast it, because then that, you know, creates the opportunity to watch her and then use that information to try to stop her. So she would not consciously, you know, broadcast this. She wouldn't
Yeah.
consciously or even subconsciously, I think, create you know, a means to watch this. So I think
Yes.
she's not responsible for the adverts. I think it's someone mocking her.
Yeah,
So I think it's yeah, I think it's someone that wants to demean her.
I absolutely agree. And you know, when we're talking about characters from Marvel Comics, who that could be, I think Mephisto's the leading theory. I know that's one that you've mentioned a few times on the channel. And I suppose, you know, you mentioned there Evan Peters' return here. Or, well, not really return, but Evan Peters' performance that was, you know, came out in set photos and leaks and stuff. And we talked about it off pod, and we had a little bit of contrasting opinions. And my friend Reese, who's a, you know, leaves comments to the channel sometimes, shout out Reese if you're listening, he had said like his mind was blown by this. And of course, if we're going to reveal it now, it's the biggest thing that's happened in the MCU for quite some time, I would say. It's that Quicksilver is, I mean, he's back, but it's Evan Peters Quicksilver. Well, not necessarily Evan Peters Quicksilver from Days of Future Past, but it's Evan Peters as Quicksilver, should I say? Would that be correct to say, do you think?
Yeah, I'll just put my immediate reaction out
Go
there.
for it.
I physically screamed no at the screen. I was genuinely upset. I wanted Aaron Taylor Johnson back, and I
Yeah.
knew that this is what they were doing. When they showed the back of his head, I was like, that's not Aaron Taylor Johnson. I was like, they're not they're really doing this to us.
Yeah,
And I
I
knew it
know.
was going to be Evan Peters, but I am really let down. You know, I suspected that this was where it was going, but I genuinely did not enjoy it. You know,
Fair enough.
people are saying, you know, as you mentioned, so some people insist that this is Fox's Quicksilver, that, you know, she plucked him from the multiverse because she can't resurrect humans, and I think that there's no chance of that. You know, I think it's clearly just a fun nod by casting Evan Peters in the role of whoever has decided to masquerade as Quicksilver to get close to Wanda. You know, I presume it's Mephisto.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. And you know what makes it kind of more heartbreaking? The fact that like we've mentioned previously mentioned the channel a lot, like we prefer the traditional sort of Aaron Taylor Johnson interpretation of Quicksilver, because I mean I suppose that feels more like Quicksilver to us than the Days of Future Past one, which kind of feels like a really sort of modern, sort of hip, sort of more, I don't know. I don't know the word for it, but a more sort of different Quicksilver, which is certainly great as well in its own right. But I think what makes it more heartbreaking here is he's actually dressed as sort of the kind of 80s, sort of 70s Quicksilver as well. So he's got like I think he's got like the leather jacket. He's got sort of course, you know, the slick back gray hair. And you know, when obviously you see the back of his head, I thought they were going to do like the you know, the Shazam Superman cameo kind of style, where they're not going to show who it is. But I know I respect that they did do that. But I actually thought it was Aaron Taylor Johnson, man. I thought the wig that they used looked incredibly. Oh man, I assume it was the kind of same color wig that Aaron Taylor Johnson used in Age of Ultron. But I was absolutely gutted it wasn't him, to be honest. I thought that would have been so much better. That being said, it was a really fun little nod. But
Hmm.
I am leaning towards it being Mephisto as well, I think.
Yeah, I've heard some theories that people said, you know, because like it's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Like people saying that because you know, Wanda's Pietro was born in 1989, then his physical matter wasn't available in the 80s, so she had to go into the multiverse to pluck out
That's certainly a
an
stretch, isn't
80s
it?
Quicksilver.
That's
So she
certainly a
took,
stretch.
you know, X-Men Apocalypse Quicksilver out of that timeline and brought him to her. And like, she's created a reality that looks like the 80s. It's not physically the 80s. She's not like, oh,
Yes.
but he wasn't even born yet. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, well, neither was her or Vision.
Oh
You
yeah.
know,
Yeah.
Vision wasn't born until 2015. So I mean, that logic doesn't really stand up. But
Yeah.
I,
Agree.
I am hoping that I think that they've just made him
It's a nod.
a
Yeah.
stand, because then they would be calling him Peter Maximoff, because that was his name in the Fox movies. But
Yeah.
he's recast Pietro. And it's recast in the context of the sitcom, not in the context of the
Yeah. Oh
MCU,
yeah.
because Darcy is the one to point it out.
And speaking of being, recontextualized it for the sitcom universe, forgive me if I'm misinterpreting this because I did watch this, it was a couple of days ago when this episode came out. Um, that I picked up like a really strong like Boston accent. He's like, "Come give your brother a hug" or something like that. Was that right, or
Yeah,
did I just mishear that or completely? What was going on
yeah,
there?
no, I've watched the scene a couple of times, and yeah, it does come across a lot like that. And yeah, I mean, I think that it may be that because in the context of this sitcom, he has come technically, in the sitcom world, they still recognize that like Wanda's from Sokovia, so would her brother. But because she's, sort of shifted hard into now
Yeah.
being an American and is using a full American accent, maybe it's, like like an overcorrection where he's doing the most American accent conceivable.
Yeah, yeah, that's a really smart point. And the last thing I have about Quicksilver is, do you reckon he has his abilities here? Be it if this is the real Pietro Maximoff that they've recast, I doubt that is what's happened, or if it's Mephisto. Do you think he's going to have abilities, or do you think he's going to trick Wanda into giving him abilities so that he can manipulate some kind of thing? Because I was kind of thinking if it's Mephisto disguised as Pietro Maximoff, he might ask Wanda to give him back his super speed, and then he might use, I don't know if he might use his abilities to that might link in the Doctor Strange, and that's a stretch of a theory. But I don't know. Do you reckon he's gonna have his super speed or not?
I mean, I think if he doesn't use his super speed, that'll make Wanda dubious, because of course, her and Vision both use their powers on a frequent basis. So
Yeah,
if he's just standing there not using his powers, I imagine that would sort of arouse suspicion.
yeah,
So I hope he does, at least for the visual, because I sort of preferred,
yeah,
because in the X-Men movies, it was wonderfully shot, in that they would slow the entire scene down so that he was appearing to move fast, but really he was running at a normal pace. But I prefer the actual visual cue of seeing speed. So
yeah,
if they could use that effect again, I'd really like to see it.
yeah. Oh, for sure, absolutely, man.
And I'd talked to you the other day about how they were probably gonna split this down the middle. And I talked with Rashad in the comments of last
Yeah,
episode. And that I thought that going forward they were probably going to do a 50-50 scenario. With the sword situation. Where they were balanced. What we see in the sitcom world, and what we see in the from Sword's perspective. And I think the switch to widescreen sitcom format was very smart, because then the shift back and forth is
I
much more
agree.
comfortable.
They do it in a really smart manner here. I think in the first couple episodes they do it quite abruptly, so it doesn't that transition's not exactly fluid. But here they do it like they edit it into the when Darcy and Agent Jimmy we are watching the sitcom, it actually transitions in really really like you wouldn't notice really for me. So it was expertly done. And what one thing that's the real focal point of this episode that I really enjoyed is that Vision is unraveling this mystery. Do you know what I mean? Like he uses his abilities. I don't know what ability this is, but he somehow is able to sort of acquire the old memories of this gentleman that we've mentioned in the office, where he finds out that Wanda has created these alternate personalities for them, which kind of makes me lean towards like you were saying, the two Wanda thing, where if she can create these alternate personalities, so to speak, for the residents of Westview, obviously giving them fake memories and like disguising the memories of when their existence outside the town, it maybe stands to reason that she could be doing that for herself because she doesn't want to know the truth. Potentially, I'm not too sure. But yeah, I really like the sort of Vision was really the main focal point and the protagonist for me in this episode. I thought Paul Bettany is just I really underestimated him. I think I think he's a phenomenal actor here. I think he's great.
I definitely agree. And there's something interesting, in the discussion of who's responsible. In the Monica starts the episode by saying that she could hear Wanda in her head, and that she was the person suppressing her her true personality.
Yeah,
But then any other time that's mentioned, the person is just referred to as she. In the office, the guy says, she's in my head. So that could easily be, Dottie or Agnes. It's not necessarily Wanda.
Yes,
So really,
absolutely.
it may be that uh, Agnes is the aggressor, and that she's sort of keeping everyone in control, and then Wanda was actually like shielding Monica from that because she found her to be an ally.
Yeah, oh, that's a really smart point, actually, for sure. And I think it sounds reason like because they're just using those personal pronouns, yeah, to go English A level for us here,
Mm,
of like she all the time. They could, obviously in Spider-Man, in the Spider-Man films, in Homecoming, I think for a few characters potentially, I'm not actually, there's been characters in the films, haven't there? Where in the comics they've been a man and in the films they've been a woman, or vice versa. So I'm sure that's happened in the movies a couple of times.
yeah.
Some Spider-Man Homecoming rings a bell for me, but I'm not sure what character that would be. I can't remember. Maybe I've got that confused with another film. But yeah, I think here it could stand a reason like Mephisto could be a woman in this universe. Like it's not out of the question. It could be Agnes or Dottie in disguise. So we don't know. But I'm just super excited. Like every week, but I get more excited to do these episodes because more and more is being revealed. And I haven't even really mentioned Jimmy Woo or Darcy, but they equally carry this show for me as well. I think they're absolutely brilliant. It's great to see Darcy back, and of course Jimmy Woo is always great in these.
Have you heard about the TV show concept for them?
I haven't. No, are they going to do like a Misty Knight slash what's the one from Iron Fist called Jessica Henwick's character
Calling
called
Wing.
Colleen Wing? I remember that was like a thing back in the day what they were going to do.
Yeah, the Daughters of the Dragon. Well, so
Yeah,
someone had pitched on Twitter that there should be a sort of a fun X Files type TV show starring Darcy and Jimmy,
that would be
and
great.
people just said, oh yeah, that sounds like a fun concept, but apparently there's been recent reports that that might actually get a bit of traction, and
I
that
would really like that. I think
that may be
yeah.
under consideration.
You could have really goofy sort of C-list Marvel characters in there as well, couldn't you? Like
Mm,
and I think that's a TV show that could like introduce or bring characters like She-Hulk or Daredevil into the frame. Do you know what I mean? Or those
yeah.
kind of characters. So or as we said, Misty Knight or Colleen Wing. That would be really fun. I think I could eat that definitely headline a show like that for sure. They're great.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would create such an easy way to introduce to some of the Marvel Knights characters. Like
Yeah, yeah,
I think it's Werewolf by Night and Man Thing, like characters
yeah.
like
Old
that. I
school.
think
Yeah.
that would be a smart way to do that.
Hmm.
And it's confirmed in this episode, based on the fact that she couldn't bring Sparky back from the dead, the Wanda can't actually resurrect organic matter.
Matter.
She
Yeah.
can only manipulate matter that's already there. And because Vision is a robot, he doesn't have decayed tissue. So I suppose this episode answers, whether that there's a question on the internet whether, based on episode 4, people thought that either Wanda, had made a new Vision and she was sort of seeing his corpse as like, a reminder that he's actually dead, or that she was literally puppeteering his corpse and, just had like an illusion over him and she was just,
Yeah.
pretending that he was actually alive.
Yeah.
But I think that this episode, answers whether she's puppeteering his corpse, and and it seems that, the answer to that is no. We were sort of both wondering if she had, resurrected him from nothing, like by manipulating reality. And, in reality, I think it's sort of a mix of both, uh, she's like taken his, I don't even know what word that's meant to say. I've written has taken his cities. I don't know what that is meant to say. I guess she's taken his remains, and she's manipulated reality to change his matter to be alive again. So it is
Yes.
his original body, original recipe Vision, as we've called him.
I love that.
But he has the personality that either Wanda or the person responsible wants him to have.
Agreed. No, for sure. And it's interesting. Like we've maybe criticized the show that they've sort of if that someone is responsible or Wanda is responsible, like they've given Vision this sort of deducing power to be able to figure it out that something is wrong. And I think that's a thing we've been
Yeah,
critical of. But one thing I know it's way too late for this theory now. But one road I would have loved if they went down was if you know Paul Bettany as sort of as like an entity here did actually exist in the town, like it was just a human who actually like it always seemed weird to me that Vision sort of in Infinity War like assumed the human sort of identity of this man who like has never seen before. Obviously that is Paul Bettany, of course, the actor, and as
yeah,
well. But I don't know, I would have really liked if they sort of did like I don't know, like a Wonder Woman 84 scenario where it's like a body swap with Steve Trevor, or in this case Vision, and Paul Bettany as a character does exist, and he's just a normal human who Wanda potentially has a romance with in the future. And sort of, I don't know, I would have liked that if, you know, the Vision's human persona was a real person here, a real individual in this Westview world. And but obviously that's way too late for that now, if it's not going to happen. But I don't know, it just I think Vision's going to be so, and obviously he's part of, he's one of the titular characters here, but I think he's going to be really integral to find out the mystery going on here. And you know, we've mentioned Mephisto. I'm not, you know, that up to date with Marvel comics anymore as I used to be, so I can't really think of any characters off the top of my head who could be apart from Mephisto. But I'm sure there's other ones there that I'm forgetting that it could be a potential source of that mystery.
Well, I mean, you know, we'd seen in sort of that featurette that was released a few weeks ago that, you know, concept art of Wonder Man was in the background. And then, you know, we had seen in the episode 2 animated intro that, you know, Grim Reaper's helmet, you know, was
Yes.
under the foundation of the house, who is, you know, Wonder Man's brother in the
Yeah.
comics. So, yeah, I don't know how you make those references, you know, with whilst, you know, being entirely meaningless. You know, I think there has to be some meaning behind that. I mean, I suppose, you know, Monica in this episode references an aerospace engineer that, you know, would be, you know, willing to come and help out and, you know, try to take down the dome. And, you know, in this sort of the Spanish subtitles of the episode, that was revealed to be like, you know, a feminine pronoun, you know, to imply that it's, you know, going to be a female friend of hers. But, you know, that may well be a mistake, and this may be their way of introducing Wonder Man. Although I think,
Potentially.
you know, within the MCU, I don't know if you knew this, but like Nathan Fillion for Guardians of the Galaxy
Guardians of the
Volume 2
Galaxy, yeah.
had been cast as Wonder Man. So, you know, and he was going to be like an actor in this universe, you know, where he had played like the biopic version of Tony Stark. So I think it's just a real missed opportunity if you
Agreed.
cast anyone in that role other than Nathan Fillion.
Yeah, because I remember Wonder Man in the Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes cartoons. Like, he was one of my favorite characters in that. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of Easter. Sorry, I nearly dropped my mic there. There's a lot of Easter eggs sort of in this episode as well. Obviously, Wanda's magic is referred to as Hex for the first time, like her Hex abilities, and the whole dome kind of goes red. So it's interesting. And I mean, it remains to be seen. I think the Wonder Man theory would have been really, like you said, I think it's a real missed opportunity if they don't have Nathan Fillion here. Like, I think that would have been absolutely incredible. But yeah, I mean, I don't have any more to say on this episode specifically, but I think in terms of how the plot line's unfolding, it was the strongest one yet. I personally absolutely loved it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think it gave the most away, you know, answered the most questions, but then created the most as well. So
Yeah.
I think that's what you want to do in sort of the mid season.
For
You know,
sure.
what you want to answer half and, you know, create even more, you
For
know,
sure.
to keep interest going. So I think it was a very effective episode, despite the fact that I am infinitely disappointed that I think, based on you know, the revelations in this episode, that she can't resurrect people from the dead, you know, which we maybe suspected she could with Vision. You know, because he was never really alive.
Yeah.
You know, in the traditional sense, she didn't have to bring back organic matter. So I don't think we're ever seeing Aaron Taylor Johnson again, which is devastating to me.
I know, it really is. It really is pity.
Because I mean, I've wanted to see him again for the last 6 years.
I know. I was kind of hoping he would have been in Endgame in some capacity, and obviously our recent film of his we reviewed is Tenet, and I think we both agreed that although his role in that was minimal, he was very decent. So he's very, very, very good in that, and I think he's quite an underrated actor, Aaron Taylor Johnson. To be honest, I absolutely love him in Kick-Ass. I really do. I think he's hilarious.
Angus Thong's a perfect snogging. You know,
he's in.
movies like
I think
that.
he's in Godzilla as well, isn't he, with Elizabeth Olsen? So
yeah, played her husband.
Yeah, that's strange. But yeah, I mean, have you got any further comments on this episode, dude?
Nothing else from me, Matthew.
Well, I suppose it's the juicy part of today's episode where we're going to rate this episode out of 10. Now, for me, I think I think consistently we've rated these episodes very highly for the most part. So I'm interested to see, with obviously the disappointing reveal in this episode, is that going to affect the overall quality for today? So what would you rate it today, man?
Well, you know, I rated the first 3 10s because I really respected their commitment to the sitcom format, and then I rated last week's episode a 4 because I thought it, you know, broke the flow of the episode, and I think that is it broke the flow of the season, and I think that's sort of the wide consensus, because I think, you know, that will make the show suffer as a whole on a rewatch, and I think it was really just to answer the questions for the general public, so that they didn't switch off because they didn't know what was going on. Like, I think it was
Yeah.
sort of an info dump to keep people interested. Because
Yeah.
I think if you'd kept people to episode 6 to start answering questions, I think there would have been some doubt there, from
Yeah.
the mass audiences. So
For
I
sure.
definitely understood last episode, but it did affect the sort of structure of the show for me. But this week, I think what was really fantastic, I think they balanced the time, between the two existences well. I thought the standoff, was really tense and surprising. I didn't think that Wanda would really, disengage from the reality enough to address the people, outside the dome, which is why I kind of have the two Wandas theory. I mean,
I
it's
like
sort of
that.
I mean, it's definitely not true,
You never
but
know, mate.
but
You never know.
I'm just trying to find some reason in it.
Stranger things have
But
happened. So
I suppose so. And I think I didn't like seeing that it wasn't Aaron Taylor Johnson, but I think within this universe she just can't bring people back from the dead. I think we're done with Aaron Taylor Johnson. So I
pity.
suppose I can
Yeah.
appreciate the fun nod of having Evan Peters. So I would still give this episode a 9.5.
Lovely. Yeah, no, mate, I think that was a really great, concise way of putting it there, to be honest with you, man. I think this episode was, for me, my favorite. I think the show just keeps getting better and better, going from strength to strength. I cannot wait to see what they do with it next week as well. I think next week is going to be another big one where I think that might be the episode where we see them in their classic costume for Halloween.
Hmm.
I have a feeling that'll be it. And I don't know, I'm getting these vibes that next week there's going to be another big reveal or something big happening, because I suppose it's getting, as you said, the mid-season, so it's going to start heating up soon. And yeah, I mean, I was very appreciative of the Quicksilver nod. At least they acknowledged that character and haven't completely binned him off, even if it's not the actor we wanted to see in that role. Elizabeth Olsen was actually really great. I love in this episode how you see sort of two different sides to your character, one of which being quite hostile and not very likable, but I think intentionally unlikable. Another one being, obviously very sweet. So, and yeah, I mean, the child actors as well, we didn't really mention them. I think they're, for the most part, okay. There's a couple of bits of overacting in there, but they're very young, so I'm not going to hold them to that high of a standard. They were good. They were good. And yeah, Paul Bettany as well, great as always. So yeah, a 9.5 for me out of 10. I'm yet to give a 10 in this series, so I'm hoping if it's on that upwards trajectory, man, a 10 could be next week for all we know. So
I,
fingers
I
crossed.
think that hopefully, I am sort of dubious about the role of whoever this is masquerading as Pietro,
Yeah,
because I think she definitely wouldn't create Pietro if she couldn't have her Pietro. I don't think she would make a conscious choice to bring a different person
I
and
agree.
dress him up as her dead brother.
I
So I
agree.
think this is definitely someone intruding in her fantasy. So I think that they probably wouldn't go past episode 7, without revealing who that is. I
Mhm.
don't think they'd keep that charade going more than 2 episodes.
Yeah. And how long is the show again?
The show's 9
Nine
episodes,
episodes.
so
Well,
I think by episode 7 we'll have a good idea of what's going
yeah.
on.
Yeah, yeah, I hope so, man. I hope so. And yeah, I mean that wraps up another WandaVision recap. Of course, we're over the midsection now of the show, and stay tuned next week with our with another recap of episode what will be episode 6. So we're getting through the show rightly. Really enjoying these little recaps as well, and of course the playlist is there of our WandaVision playlist as well. As we're doing Riverdale recaps as well for you guys. So hope you well, thanks very much for today, Callum. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hope you guys are all safe and well. Hope your family and friends are all safe and well too. Take care, everyone, and see you later.
Bye bye.